The recent Israeli raid on El Mawasi killed at least 7 Palestinians. How would you characterize the IOF's strategy in targeting civilian areas like El Mawasi? And what does this mean for the humanitarian situation in Gaza, sir, at this point?
Thank you for having me, Rana. Of course, the Israeli army of occupation has made a habit over the past month of targeting safe humanitarian zones or supposedly designated safe humanitarian zones inside the Gaza Strip, including Al-Mawasi, which is the largest humanitarian safe zone inside Gaza. It has been targeted numerous times, causing thousands of casualties between dead and injured. And it is part of a larger strategy adopted by the Israeli army of occupation that aims to exercise maximum military pressure on Hamas and on the local population of Gaza, or the Palestinians of Gaza. And this two-pronged approach has two goals. One is a very short-term goal, and that is to apply pressure on the people of Gaza so that they would turn on Hamas eventually and force them to make more concessions in order to reach a deal that caters to the war aims of Israel, which will deliver them the result of this war as a victory at the end of the day. And the long-term goal is to cement the impression in the psyche of all of the people of Gaza that nowhere is safe, and that wherever you are, we will get you, and we will kill you, and we will wound you, and we will put your life in jeopardy and the life and the well-being and safety of your children and families in jeopardy. And the ultimate aim is to convince the people of Gaza is that they cannot stay in their lands anymore, with the ultimate goal of ethnically cleansing them out of the Gaza Strip. The only thing that stands as an obstacle in the way of achieving these very vile designs is the will of the people of Gaza and their insistence on not abandoning their land or leaving their lands like they were forced to do in 1948. And the second thing that stands in the way, of course, is the utter refusal of Egypt to accept the Egyptian government, of course, led by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who totally rejects the idea of displacing the Palestinians or driving them off their lands.
Okay, Dr. Mohamed Kamel, Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia reported continuous Israeli drone strikes despite being a medical facility. How can the international community address Israel's deliberate targeting of hospitals, of course, like Indonesian hospital and Auda, and essential infrastructure, sir? And when will this stop ever?
So let's count together. Kamal Adwan, and before that, as you mentioned, the Indonesian hospital, Al-Auda hospital, and even Al-Shifa hospital, the largest medical facility in Gaza. Most of the major healthcare institutions and medical institutions of the Gaza Strip, according to the United Nations, have been destroyed by the Israeli military. This should be addressed by the international community as a blatant war crime.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that the international community did address once and twice, and all the international bodies did address, and without no response from Israel. And Israel is continuing its atrocities and genocides, and they don't want to stop under any condition.
That's the only thing they can do. We should not call upon the international community to address anything. We should call upon the United States to address this issue as it is, a war crime and a grave violation of international law, specifically international humanitarian law and international human rights law. The International Court of Justice considered the Israeli violations as, classified them as some sort of an attempted genocide, or so it said that the people of Gaza were at risk of being victims of genocide if Israeli policies and actions persist in the manner they do, and they have been, of course, for the better part of a year now, since the ruling of the ICJ, and Israel has been continuing that without any deterrence. If anything, the United States is criticizing the ICJ. And also, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, issued arrest warrants against senior Israeli officials, chief among them, of course, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, on account of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, just like the targeting of hospitals and medical facilities. However, what makes Israel enjoy this kind of immunity and impunity is the political cover provided by the United States, unfortunately. And the United States would prevent sanctions in the United Nations because sanctions have to go through the United Nations Security Council. So the US will never let that go. They will always exercise their veto power
Dr.
to prevent
Mohamed,
that.
with food shortages pushing thousands of Palestinians to the brink of starvation and famine, how would you describe the long-term impact of Israel's siege on Gaza and its blockade of humanitarian aid? And also, sir, what do you think of water as a war weapon that Israel uses against Palestinians and, of course, the Middle East now as we talk?
You see, this will be a continuation of my previous answer. This is a manifestation of an act of genocide. How do you eliminate a population? Other than killing them and bombing them into oblivion, you deprive them of shelter, you deprive them of healthcare, you deprive them of food, and you deprive them of water. Basically, you deprive them of basic sustenance. So when this happens, people die eventually, or they leave. And this is what genocide is. Genocide, according to the Genocide Convention, is destroying in total or in part a certain population or nation. And this is exactly what's happening to the Palestinians and a national ethnic group and an indigenous people and indigenous inhabitants of the Gaza Strip. Depriving them of water, for example, and food in northern Gaza aims to empty northern Gaza of the remaining Palestinian residents. They have already managed to drive 100,000 Palestinians out of Jabalia, for example. Most of the population of Beit Lahia, Jabalia, and Beit Hanun in the outmost northern part of Gaza has been largely evacuated. A few thousand people are left there, and they will force them to move eventually. And this is an act of ethnic cleansing, of course. And there is even talk of settlement building and as you said, the erection of military infrastructure in northern Gaza, which means that they are aiming or are planning to maintain a permanent presence over there. So this is an act of genocide, and of course it will have huge humanitarian ramifications on the people of Gaza at large. And depriving people of food is a violation of a basic human right.
We hope, sir, all the better for all the Palestinians and for these atrocities and genocides to end as soon as possible. That was Dr. Mohamed Osman, expert in international relations, joining us from Cairo. Thank you very much for your intellectual, informative insights and knowledge, sir.